they think that the job is to describe their business to a potential buyer. What they're really doing is they are sending a signal to the market that sounds like this. Pick me. Please pick me. That's like dating and walking into a bar with like a name tag that says, I am lonely and desperate and I live with my mom.
Welcome to Content Kingdom. This is your backstage pass to the people, tools, and the trends shaping the future of content marketing.
And welcome to another episode of Content Kingdom. I'm your host, David G. Ewing. And to talk about the feast and famine that studios go through whenever they are working to try and improve their business is Joel Pilger. Right, Joel? Joel Pilger.
That's right.
And he's here to talk about that and the absolutely travesty of making unbelievably differentiated content, but having a completely undifferentiated studio. So, Joel, where do we begin, man?
Oh my gosh. Well, you've probably named one of the biggest pain points in creative companies. And that is if you or I put somebody in the hot seat and we ask them, hey, tell me about your company. What do you do? They, first of all, panic. And then second of all, they start to say, well, you know, we're kind of this company and we kind of do these things and we're excited about this. And we love, and there's this word salad that comes out of, right? Their mouths. And by the way, I was that studio founder and I have a whole story I can tell about that. But we very much struggle to tell the world what makes us special and what makes us different.
Yeah. So let's hear it, Joel. Like, what makes you special? What makes you different? And, you know, in tech, I call it the nerd salad because it's just like nerdy terms coming out all over the place. But for you, how do you do this without having a word salad?
Well, I mean, the short version is it's a journey of finding your genius and gaining the confidence to articulate it, right? Because what is actually true, if this is true of you, it's true of me, it's true of anyone listening, is you are unique, right? There's only one Joel, right? There's only one David and so forth. So it's owning that uniqueness and finding the way to articulate it that answers the question that your client, that your customer is asking. And that question is always, so what? So the way that I do that is, wow, okay, sure. I've lived this career and this life. And I now know if I was going to answer the question, so what, to my clients, right? To my audience, it's, I am the, right? Former studio founder who now works as an advisor to help companies like yours reach the next level. It's something like that, where it's literally just going right at what is the transformation? What is the value that you offer that person? So when they say, so what, you answer it.
Yeah. You know, you said there's only one David, but when I was in the 7th grade, there was like 5 Davids, and like even calling myself David E, which is what they did back then, just complete fail. So thanks for making me feel special, Joel. You know,
so much for that theory.
Yeah. There's tons of Davids. They're the sea of sameness of Davids. But anyway, no, I agree with you. And so, yeah, you know, that so what is kind of an interesting thing. I mean, I've tried that just starting with like the hot seat question of like, what do you do and why does it matter? And you know, I've tried so many different ways on doing that. I do want to hear the story of you starting off with the studio. But I mean, I can tell you that I have tried so many different things where it's like, well, you know, I had a tech business and they're like, what's your tech business do? And I'm like, well, I make sure that kids who need, medicine don't die. And people are like, oh, okay, well, that's cool, you know? And so I would just try to like really zero it in. And that actually wasn't a fair description of what my company did. We did a bunch of other stuff, but it just was enough of a hook that I could get people in, you know? So I like what you do. Like, hey, I make it so that as a studio exec, you don't go bankrupt. Like, I think that's pretty cool, you know?
Yeah. Well, what you just said there, I think is actually very wise. And that is, you said, I put a hook out there. And what I also heard you say was, you don't try and put a statement that is the end all be all, describes everything that you do, because here's one principle I like to drop on people. Your goal with positioning, this is what we're talking about, right? Positioning is how we articulate our value to the marketplace, right? And we occupy a position in someone's mind. But your goal with your positioning is to create curiosity that leads to a conversation. So I call that my 3 C's.
Okay.
Right? And then it helps you stay out of something else, another type of C called the C of sameness, where you just blend in. So
the sad sea of sameness.
Yeah. So
the
your
Beach
hook
Boys
is
wrote a
actually
song
really
called
good.
like The Lonely Sea. And want to stay out of that one. So
We
it
wanna
is not
stay
a
out of
lonely
that.
sea because everybody has I feel like in the sea of sameness at some point in their life. So I'm sorry, I cut you off. Please continue.
No, it's good. What I like about your line about helping kids and so forth is it's a great hook that makes me curious, because when we articulate our positioning and our value to a prospective client, do not try and answer the question so that the person says, oh, now I know what you do and who you are and how you do it and blah, blah, blah. No, the ideal response is this. Huh? That's actually your goal, because what is that? That is the human way of expressing curiosity. Like, what? And you nailed it when you said, helping kids, right? What was it? Avoid, medicines to avoid disease. Something.
Medicine so they don't die. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah, because guess what? If I'm your ideal client and I believe what you believe, when you say that to me, I'm going to lean in and say, whoa. What did you say? Tell me more. That's the goal. That's it. So if your website, your marketing, your positioning language, all that, if it's creating curiosity that leads to a conversation, you're winning. That's it. You're done. Like that's what you want to solve for.
So, this is really an interesting problem because you focus on studios, right? And so a studio makes content. And I think that any studio that's like, well, we make awesome content. It's like, well, what? Did we expect you to make not awesome content? Like, I'm sure you make great movies, right? So what are some of the things that you advise your clients on to say, well, like more than just like what you'd expect to hear, how do you typically work that problem?
Well, it's a method, right? There's a whole method to helping a studio and its leadership surface these things that are distinguishing, right? I think of it this way. Great work is everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So great work is not the distinguishing characteristic. It's not why I'm going to hire you if you're a creative studio or a production company or an agency or something. So anyone who hangs their hat on, we do great work, is basically saying, hey, we're bringing table stakes and we're expecting to win the game. And everybody knows this. And they say, well, yeah, but we don't know what else to talk about. And I would say, oh, there's plenty of stuff we can talk about, because you, say, David, if you're the principal, there's only one of you, and you have a unique point of view. You have a unique experience. You actually solve problems in a way that is different, unique, special than everyone else. Now, if you don't do that, you've got an entirely different problem. Okay. That's called a weak product, a weak service, a weak expertise. Okay. There's ways that we can solve that. That's usually not the problem. It's usually the getting clear about what is your expertise. How do we articulate it in a way that's unique, special? I have another mental mnemonic that I use. And that is, when we've nailed your positioning, there's these 3 I's. Let me see if I can remember them. Is that our goal is, let's make you irresistible, irreplaceable, and inevitable. So that when your ideal client finds you, they go, wow, I can't resist this. They're obviously the only one that does this thing, and it's inevitable, right? We're going to work together. We're going to form a relationship, and we're going to go make amazing work together. But this has been a long journey for me. I can tell you the story if you're interested, of how I got very rudely slapped in the face about this problem.
All right. I'm all ears. Cause yeah, I mean, you know, every story about Hollywood and about studios and about the movie business says that like, it's pretty rough and tumble behind the scenes, right? This is a pretty blunt crowd. So let's hear
For
it,
sure.
Joel. What was it like?
Well, so I ran a studio based in Denver, Colorado called Impossible Pictures. The work that we did was for entertainment. We would do the marketing work for entertainment. So Discovery Channel would come to us and we would help them launch the next season of Deadliest Catch. So we would be doing the promos, the campaigns, all of the marketing assets to drive people to go watch the show. And one client that I really wanted to work with was DirecTV because they had great budgets. They always had cool creative. I said, I'm going to reach out to this guy, Roger Hyde, who was the SVP of creative at DirecTV, and get a meeting. Okay, guess what? How long do you think it took me to get a meeting with this guy? 3 years.
3 years. Wow, that's some persistence.
3 years, right? So I reach out, and then every month or two, and after about a year, I finally get on this guy's radar. After about a year, there's this like, yeah, at some point we should meet. And then the next year, I'm at a conference in Los Angeles at the JW Marriott, okay, what was then called Promax. And he's there, and we schedule a meeting between my team and his team. Let's meet in the lobby. And I'm thinking, finally, because this is going to be a $1, $2, $3 million a year account for me once I convert them. I just know it. We're a great fit. So we finally meet there in the Marriott, right? There's throngs of people around because they're all at the conference. And I sit down, my team is there, a few people, Roger's there, a few people from his team. And then he asks the same question that every client asks of you and me and everyone listening. All right, Joel, tell me about your company. And I proceed to give him the word salad.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, Impossible Pictures, we're like super collaborative and we love producing outstanding work. And storytelling and design and whatever I start to say.
Yeah.
He actually does this to me, David. He goes, whoa. Like mid spiel. He stops me before I can even finish. And he goes, I'm sorry, but I've met with literally about a dozen studios and agencies like yours today. And if I'm honest, you guys all suck at marketing. So I'm stuck. He goes, so I'm stuck wondering, why would I hire you to market my brand? Now you can imagine this is the first few sentences of this conversation. This is how we start.
Uh-huh.
Clearly the meeting is effectively over as soon as he goes, why in the hell would I hire you to market my brand? So, of course, the meeting does sort of clumsily continue on and we chit chat, but I know in my heart, I blew it.
Yeah. Yep.
And I go home with my tail tucked between my legs and I feel humiliated and I'm ashamed because I knew I blew it. But then I also said, he's right. He's absolutely right, because all these people in my industry and other industries, especially in the creative space, we think, well, we do great work. So therefore, right, what we're implying is you should work with us because we do great work. And your buyer is saying, I don't get it. I don't see it. It's sure the work is great, but everybody's got great work. And in his world, he's saying, I'm trying to sell a thing called DirecTV. And if I use your strategy, I'm going to fail. So why would I hire you? And that put me on a mission. And I'm still indebted to this person, Roger, to this day. And we've since kind of become friends and acquaintances because I said, dude, you derailed my business. And I went home and said, I'm going to solve this. And I did. 6 months later, I had repositioned my company, slightly shifted the name, changed the domain, rebranded, new tagline, new positioning, new focus. And guess what? My team thought I was nuts. My team, when I presented to them, this is the direction we're going to go in. We're no longer impossible pictures. We're impossible. And we focus on these things. This is what we're great at. This is our specialty. We're unique, everything.
Don't leave me hanging, Joel. What was it?
Well, my team first of all saw this and they said, well, we should probably start polishing our resumes. They thought this is the dumbest thing in the world. This is crazy. They said we should be expanding our services, not narrowing. Anyways, it actually worked. Over the next 2 to 3 years, we started doing more network rebrands, meaning launching networks and doing all of the branding and positioning for TV networks. We increased up to about $5 million per year from 3 million. So, it worked. So that's the moral of the story is by getting really clear about who you are, what makes you different, what are you truly great at? Not just the work is great, but then articulating it in a way that the market can see it and get curious about it. And it leads to conversations. That's the power of positioning.
So Joel, I'm super curious though. So when you went from impossible pictures to impossible, like what would the new pitch to Roger sound like if you got the do-over? What did it sound like on round 2?
It would have been something more like, hey, Roger, great to meet you. Oh, so I would have say like impossible is the miracle making studio based in Denver, right? That excels at grabbing viewers by the eyeballs. But what our clients say about us is that we help them imagine the impossibilities.
Okay. I like
Now, he would have responded to that like, huh? And this is where we often think, oh, that doesn't work. He's confused. No, he's not confused. He's curious. If he's confused, he would just say, that's like annoying and silly and weird. I'm out of here. But when the person says, I don't get it, tell me more, that's their way of saying, I sense there might be a fit. Tell me more and let's explore. Because at the end of the day, that's actually our goal. Our goal in business when we're trying to attract a new client or customer is simply to figure out, are we a fit? Because if we're a fit, clearly we're going to work together. We're going to do amazing work together. You're going to give me all the money you have. I'm going to go spend it and make the most beautiful things for you. That's what we're here to figure out.
Got it. Well, that definitely is kind of like at the core of the business, because it sounds like what you're saying is you got to go take it back down to the studs and like get to the atomic thing that makes your little molecule of this world totally different from everything else. And then once you do, you start permeating it across every channel, right? From the opening 30-second pitch to the site to everything that goes on from there. What do you think is the hardest part today? Like when someone goes through that and they are like, Joel, help me out here. What are typically the places where they struggle the most?
That's a really good question. You just gave me the thought of it. It's a little bit like we're finding our fingerprint.
Yeah.
Right. Like this thing is one of a kind on the planet, right? It's actually an expression of my DNA, which is kind of cool to think. The problems people most often bump up against, and I'm in the middle of this process right now. I've got 4 studios going through what's called my Jumpstart Accelerator, and we're in the positioning week, and everyone's heads are exploding because of, I've just told them that's bland. That's vanilla, right? You're beige, and I need you to like stand out and be remarkable. Where people get stuck is a few places. One is they think that the job is to describe their business to a potential buyer. The other place where people get stuck is in that describing, what they're really doing is they are sending a signal to the market that sounds like this. Pick me. Please pick me. Okay, which is the wrong posture. Okay, that's like dating and walking into a bar with like a name tag that says, I am lonely and desperate and right. And I live with my mom. Okay. Like that is
I'm
not the
sad
posture.
and thirsty. Yeah.
Right. That's not the posture. So often when you go to these companies, they think, well, our job is to put all of our cool work on our website and talk about we do this and we do that and we are about that and we. And you know what? Great brands never lead with we. They lead with you, the buyer, right? If you go to Apple, it does not say we on their homepage. It does not say we make great computers or we make the world's best phone. It just says something like think different. It makes you go, oh, what these people are, they kind of think like I think. They believe like I believe. So that's another place that people get stuck. And then a third thing I would mention is I think a lot of times we get stuck with the past. And what this causes us to do is we lack courage. So what I like to tell people is when you're figuring out your messaging and your positioning to stand out in that sea of sameness, your job is not to describe or position the company that you are. Wait, what? I thought that's what we were trying to do. No, you're actually trying to figure that out for the company you are becoming. Because your past, right, actually doesn't determine your future. You may be poorly positioned in the past. You're bland, you're vanilla, you're milquetoast. But if I can help get you to a place called imagine your next great client with a great budget who has all the resources you need to bring to bear on the problem that is perfect for you, imagine yourself in that space, in that mode. Now think about your company. Now let's describe that company and articulate it in a way that buyers, right, are attracted or curious about. So the quick version is positioning is always defining the company that you are becoming, not the company that you've been. But that requires bravery and courage. It requires vision. You have to be able to look into the future and say, that's where we're going. And we're going to get there. Because with the right clients, the right budgets, all those things, when they start showing up, we can absolutely deliver.
You know, that is a really great point. And there's two traps that I feel like I have fallen into and watched other people fall into. One is, you know, there's this, just a quick aside, there's this really great book by a guy named Robert Cialdini called Influence. And it's about the 7 ways in which people like kind of get hooked into cults and like wind up doing things they never thought they would do before because they've been influenced. And the number one way that cults get people into their cult is through commitment and consistency, right? So it's, hey, you already said X and then you said Y and then you said Z. Well, the next logical step in that chain is this. Don't you want to be, essentially what they're implying is, don't you want to be consistent with your past? And the idea that someone would say, no, I'm going to totally contradict what I said before. I'm going to do something totally different is so hard for us to do. That commitment and consistency winds up, you wind up shaving your head and having a top knot and doing chants in somebody's basement, before you know
it.
Right. And the point that you just made about being the company of the past, it's like, well, unconsciously, it's like, well, we have to be consistent with what we've done in the past. Like, how could we dare break with that? And to me, that is one of the hardest things that I found is either unconsciously or consciously, either me or my team will be like, well, we've been in the X business for a while, right? And now you're saying we're in the Y business. Well, that's not consistent with our past is what they ultimately are getting to. And you got to snap that in half. And that's that history part is just nasty, right? It's tough to do that.
It's scary. It's very scary.
Yeah. The second thing that you said that I think is interesting is the idea that some people feel like it's disingenuous, like they're lying, right? Like, hey, we used to be a company that did this. Now we're a studio that we're going to do this other thing. That's not what we do right now. Are we lying? And so how do you get people when they're talking about this aspiration, how do you help them draw the line between we're aspiring to be something a little bit more, we're going to use AI or we're going to not use AI or we're going to take this stand, we're going to go in this different direction versus what we've done in the past. And they're like, but we don't do that today. Are we lying? What do you say to them?
Love the question. I ask them this question. I'm going to give you 2 parts. Okay. Let me lock in part 2. All right. Part 1 is I ask them, all right, let's just imagine, right? Let's imagine your ideal client. Who is it that you aspire to work with or work for? And they'll name a brand. Okay. So it could be somebody like, we want to work with, I don't know, Liquid Death. Okay. That's a hot brand right now. And I go, okay, cool. So let's imagine Liquid Death shows up, and let's assume that they have a campaign that they need executed. They hand you a brief. They've got a budget of $250,000. They've got 8 weeks to turn around a commercial or a promo or a spot, a social media, whatever. Could you do it? And what I'll tell you, David, is 10 out of 10 of the studios that I work with, they all say, oh, hell yes. And I'm like, really? What? Tell me more. And they're like, are you kidding? That's what we do. Like, in a way, the product or service, the expertise that we do in the marketplace isn't the hard part. Right? So a creative studio, if I go, here's $250,000, can you make something amazing? They're like, hell yes. That we do in our sleep, because guess what? That's their genius. That's what comes naturally to them. The problem is finding the client, getting the conversation, standing out, having the sales conversation, selling through, getting through procurement. I mean, there's all of the business things. That's the hard part. That's the hard part. So I get them out into a space called ideal client, ideal budget, ideal parameters. Describe what is now possible, and their imagination opens up. They start to go, oh, well, if you remove all those obstacles, yeah, we're awesome. And here's another game I like to play is I have a simple framework that I love to drop on people, and I call it A to the. And what I'll do is I'll ask someone, hey, let's go to your About Us page or your LinkedIn company page and read me that line. Okay. And it will be something like, we are a studio of makers, right? We love producing amazing award-winning content that delights audiences. I'm like, okay. Now I want you to change that little word A. We are a studio of makers. Change that little A to the. And now read the sentence back to me. And the person says, oh, we are the studio of makers. And they suddenly say, that sentence doesn't really work anymore. And I'm like, exactly. That's what we have to do, because A, by definition, says you are one of many.
Exactly.
Wow. If you said to someone, I am a plumber, I am a software developer, I am a cinematographer, you're saying there's a world of people out there that wear this title, and I am one of those many. As soon as I break your brain by saying, change that to the, if someone said, I am the cinematographer, I am the electrician, I am the dentist, it doesn't make any sense, because the title we're wearing is not unique. It's not different. It's not actually telling the person anything. So that often breaks people's brains, and they start realizing, oh, okay. If we can get to the place where we are we're going to have a very singular and very definitive statement about us that's going to tend to cause our ideal clients to lean in and say, tell me more.
All right. So Content Kingdom is the podcast that is where you go to learn about content. Or I could probably do a little bit better if I had a little couple minutes. But yeah, I do like the power of that, right? Yeah. Right. The power of that forces you to be super specific, right? Because now it's far more interesting than we are a podcast about blah, 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 right? And I like that.
But what's funny
I think that's a really handy, that's a good life hack. I love that.
It's a little simple thing that I developed years ago. And what I think is fun for anyone listening to your podcast right now, they're saying, yeah, there's only one podcast, right? Content Kingdom. There's not multiple ones. So that is the one that has that name and it does a certain thing. So just own it.
Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. So Joel, what do you do with your content to, establish yourself as a subject matter expert and get out there? What is Joel Pilger the?
Right. The advisor to the world's top studios, right? That's what I'm going to throw
Yeah.
out there.
Okay. Love it.
I mean,
Tell me more.
yeah, right. I mean, what do I do? I think I lean into the fact that I'm a unique human being. I have a unique story. And here's one insight that I learned years ago, because when I ran my studio and then I exited and I said, oh, I'm going to start helping other studio founders, right, figure out the business side. I had a lot of imposter syndrome because I was going to my competitors that were bigger, badder, just more amazing, and approaching these founders and saying, hey, I can help you run your business. And inside I thought, who the hell am I to tell anyone how to run their business? And you might feel this, others might feel this. And the discovery came to me through a meme, because as I was working through that in my early years as an advisor, I came across this meme that said, gosh, I'm going to butcher it. It's something like, you're the one who did it the way you did it. All right. And what it's suggesting is you have a story that only you can tell of the way that you did it. And it doesn't matter. Like when I go out into the world and I say to people, I've got these ideas, I want to help you, I'm positioning myself as an expert, I'm always speaking from a place based on experience and story. So I will always say, hey, from my point of view, this is what works. Based on my experience, this is something you should consider. So rather than just going out there and giving people advice brazenly, I'm always coming from a place called, hey, I have a perspective, I have a story, I have experience and wisdom, and that can't be argued with. Does that make sense? Like when you and I tell someone a story and we give somebody an observation or an insight based on your story, it's unassailable because the story happened. When I tell people I repositioned Impossible Pictures to Impossible, and several years later, we were launching a brand new network for Discovery Channel because of that expertise that our new positioning claimed, no one can argue with me because it happened.
That happened.
It's real. Yeah, it's real.
Yeah.
So that's often the place I try and come from in terms of how I go out to the marketplace. And I think the other thing I would just say is we've beaten this from several different angles, but it's this idea that authority is not something that's granted. It's something that's claimed. And everybody listening to this that has experience, has been working in their business, has this thing I call authority. They just need to claim it. Stop waiting. Stop waiting for people out there to recognize you or to acknowledge it. Because often people look at experts, okay? Like if I position myself as an expert and they sort of think, well, yeah, they look at my credentials, they look at my history, they look at my ecosystem that I now run and they go, oh, okay, I guess he's an expert. But the funny thing is my journey there was one of claiming it every step of the way. I just claimed it. I said, yes, I am that guy. I can do that. I can teach that. I can help you. And then somebody said, really? Prove it. Then I proved it. And then you just keep doing that. So I don't know if that makes sense. It's a little bit of a different journey than most of us think that all these experts and guides and leaders and so forth, that somehow everyone got together and bestowed this authority on them. That's not actually how it works.
There's two stories that come to mind when I hear that. So first, on your idea about sharing your stories and your knowledge and your experience, and not just sharing advice. Have you ever heard of Entrepreneurs Organization?
Oh,
About
of
EO?
course. Yeah. EO. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So I'm a member of EO, and I love getting together with other business owners. And we have a rule. In fact, you get fined $5 if you give someone advice. But when we get together, you share your experience. Like, oh, Joel, I'm so sorry that you got embezzled from. I got embezzled. This is what happened. This is how I felt about it. This is what's going on. I never am like, you know what you need to do? You need to sue that guy. Like, no. You'll figure out your way of doing it. But what I did was this, and I either feel great about it or I don't feel great about it, or it didn't work out, or I wish I'd done something different. But this is what happened. And yes, that's what happened. It isn't my opinion on what you should do. It's what happened to me. Now you do whatever you're going to do. I love that.
Love it.
The other thing that you talked about claiming something, I read this book. Gosh, it was a while ago, but it was about creativity, and the book central thesis was, do you know what the difference between creative people and non-creative people? Do you know what it is? Creative people have just decided they're creative. Full stop. That's it. Like, if you're creative, it's because you just somewhere along the way decided I'm a creative person. And guess what? Now you're creative. And if you have been like, I'm not a creative person, guess what? You're not creative. Like, that's it. And the other thing that I remember from that book, this is a little bit of a tangent, was, they did an experiment with artists where they were like, hey, you guys in this half of the room are going to get graded based on what your best piece of art for the semester, right? So just do the best you can on one thing. And they're like, these other guys, you're going to get graded on quantity. Like, how much stuff can you possibly pump out? And it turned out that the quantity people made way better art than the quality people. It was actually like objectively higher skilled. They just took more at bats. I don't know. This is fascinating. So yeah, claim it, man.
Sense.
Like, you just have to claim it, right? If you're the expert, then you are the, not a, you are the, and claim it. I love that idea. And I think that's pretty cool.
Yes.
A couple of things that I've noticed about your content, right? You have a beautiful website, by the way. I love the joelpilger.com website.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I said, I used the J, Joel Pilger.
You did.
All right,
Yeah.
Yes, I did that. Okay.
You got it. You nailed it.
But it's nice. And you've got something called Fabulous. And I wanted to just dive in a little bit on that and just get as a thought leader, as an entrepreneur, talk to me about that. And what are you doing there? And what's that all about?
So The Fabulous is my podcast, which is, in a nutshell, right? It's the podcast that takes studio founders and leaders in the creative industry and shares their story from the business side. It's almost like sort of opening the kimono and saying, let's not talk about the creative work, right? As great as that is, there's tons of shows, right, and resources about that. Let's talk about, what does it take to run a business like this, right? How do you get clients? How do you charge, right? How do you differentiate? All these kinds of things. So that's what I explore on that podcast.
Yeah. And so my big question for you is, how do you get your guests to talk about it? I mean, don't they feel like that's a little bit proprietary? What do you do to kind of get them to open up?
Well, first of all, and probably the most important thing I do, is I build a relationship with this person first, and I let them know you and I are the same, because I ran a business for 20 years in the same space. I get it. Like, we are brothers and sisters in solidarity trying to figure this out. So there's a certain amount of, when people realize they identify with me, I do trust building to make sure that they realize, oh, wow. And I also let them know, I know you think your story might be special and your problems are different and unique and you don't want to reveal them. But the truth is, it all follows certain patterns and you're not alone. And the story you're going to share is your story, but it's also a story common to all. So let's tell that story. Let's invite others into it. And if it benefits them, great. And usually I find in my industry, even though it's highly competitive, that creatives tend to be generous. They tend to be the type of people that they want to share their story, and they are, they're going to draw a line and not get into certain specifics of clients and client names and those kinds of things. But other than that, I think they find that their career has been very much helped by others who were candid and open and shared and generous. And so now it's their turn, right, to pay it forward.
That's awesome. So Joel, I know we've got to wrap up because we're running out of time, but there's one topic I wanted to ask you about before we go, and that is, I'd love to get your opinion on just the question of the day, right? Which everyone is constantly talking about, and that's AI, right? So
Sure.
Can you walk us through like what is happening to studios with AI right now? What would you say is like kind of the top 3 things that they need to do as it relates to AI at this moment, if that makes sense?
Sure. Well, I mean, I think I would first of all say I get it, right? Like as AI burst on the scene and it's been growing and improving, there's this there's a freak out. And it comes from, is this going to replace me?
Yeah.
And what we're realizing now is for most creatives and their studios in the world, the answer is no. It's going to be a tool that we lean on and use increasingly as we move forward. But for those of us that feel threatened genuinely that AI is going to replace us, my encouragement, even though this might sound like a bit of tough love, is I find those people are not solving big enough problems. Like if AI can replace you that easily, you are most likely selling a commodity or just a service. And some people are betting on that. Oh yeah, I'm going to embrace AI and now I can do work even cheaper, even faster at more volume. And I would say, good luck with that. That's not my journey. That's not the journey I'm taking my people on. So, and I think the reason that people often freak out about this is because our identities are actually wrapped up and trapped inside our craft, inside our business, inside our career. Okay. And this is also often the call to realize our identities are evolving. And so maybe this container called, right, I'm a motion designer, right? Or I'm a live action production company. Maybe that needs to evolve with you because you're outgrowing it. And AI is the thing that's making you realize, actually, it was never about that. It's about me as a creative, me as a human, and what's now possible if I'm using this tool to some extent or another. And there's ethical concerns there too. I don't want to gloss over those other than to say, I get it, right? How AI is impacting the environment and whether or not it's using copyrighted material in its corpus and those kinds of things. So just know that those are real issues and I hope they get solved. But I find that right now, the really smart studios and smart creatives, sure, they're using AI to generate certain parts of their production pipeline, meaning generative AI, creating images and motion and video and content. Sure, that's pretty cool. But I think what is far cooler is how people are using AI as an intelligence layer inside their business to help run the business. Because the ability to capture judgment and decisions and to give you visibility across tons of data inside your business so that you can just make better decisions faster with more confidence. And let's face it, and even create systems and routines that are automated and things like that. That's really where I think the very interesting potential is for AI. And I just led a roundtable on this about a month ago where I had 4 founders come in and share, how are you using AI to run your business, not to generate visuals and content? And the stuff that they shared, people's minds were just blown because they were like, oh, I've been using AI to just help me write better emails, or to find a chicken recipe or something. And when they saw what people were doing with AI, and again, that's a link or a piece of content I'm happy to share with people. But suffice it to say, minds were blown when people realized, oh, there's systems and processes, and these companies are very much innovating by using some of this technology.
His name is Joel Pilger. You can find him at joelpilger.com. Check out the Fabulist. It's really wonderful. Joel, thank you for being a phenomenal guest on Content Kingdom.
Oh, you're so welcome, David. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Beer, whiskey, wine, coffee, tea.
Whiskey.
Which one?
Oh, bourbon.
Spring, fall, summer, winter.
That's a tough one. I'm going to have to say winter because I love skiing, especially if a helicopter is involved.
Ooh, that's cool. Skiing or snowboarding?
Skiing.
Well, no one's perfect. Favorite state other than your home state?
Colorado. It's my adopted home state.
Favorite country other than your home country?
It's like between Italy, Spain, and France, but I'm going to have to still stick with France.
Do it yourself or hire someone else?
Ah, boy, that's a tough one. Hire someone else.
And your favorite books you read as a kid could count?
I'm going to have to go back to books as a kid and say the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Ooh, nice.